Hello, everyone, and I'm going to briefly talk about the summary of so far this election. Now, it's very rare when you have two Democrats going after each other so near the primaries. It's very rare for this to happen because normally there's at least three more or four more Democrats and Republicans on both sides. However, though, not a lot of Democrats wanted to run this election because they feel like they didn't want to do a disservice to Obama's legacy. What legacy? This man promised change in this country. But where is it? The man had, and I'll say this, the man had a Democratic majority in the House and Senate when he became president. And so he could have passed through Obamacare, the Lilly Ledbetter Act, he could have passed everything that he wanted to in his first term in office when he had the majority of the Democrats in the House and Senate. But no, he felt like doing executive powers during a presidency was unconstitutional. Okay, so he stalls on using the majority of the Democrats in the House and Senate his first term. And, okay, now, the second term comes around. People that supported Obama in the beginning didn't really feel, the excitement of President Obama again, so they decided to vote for Mitt Romney. Well, you had people like me, young voters at the time, who wanted to vote for Obama because we still had hope that he would bring positive change. Okay, so 2012 election comes along. I helped with the Obama campaign. Well, I helped for one day anyway, but I helped with the campaign. He gets elected, okay, which is good. However, though, now we have another problem. Come 2014, every 6 years we have the congressional, election, the Congress election. That's what I mean by congressional election. And so, anyway, every 6 years, this congressional election happens. Now, in 2014, there were a lot of Democrats running and a lot of Republicans running as well. Now, I'm part of the minority of millennials who went out to vote in 2014. I voted in 2014. I got my ass off the computer and I went out to vote for straight Democrats. Now, a lot of millennials decide to sit back and think, oh, Democrats are going to get it anyway. No. So then Obama had to deal with a majority of the Republicans in the House and Senate, and now he wants to put through his plans that he could have done when he had the Democrat majority in the House and Senate. So anyway, Obama did a decent job passing through the things he wanted to do. He had a hard time getting it, and it's not all his fault, but he is partially to blame. Not completely 100%, but partially to blame. Now, come 2016 election, a guy rolls around. He's called himself an independent socialist since the 1970s. I should actually correct myself, since the 1960s. And he always fought for civil rights. He always fought for gay rights. He always fought for true American values. True American values, not fake conservative values. True American values, like healthcare, education, so on and so forth. This man, who's Bernie Sanders, comes along and gets millennials excited. I'm on board the Bernie train. And I know a lot of people who are in my age group who are on the Bernie train. And there are a lot of people in my age group who are on the Donald Trump train. But to throw Donald Trump a bone, he's authentic as well, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong on almost everything. Now, you have Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders running on separate tickets. You have Bernie Sanders running on the Democrat ticket and Donald Trump running on the Republican ticket. Now, don't get me wrong, Bernie Sanders is the more qualified out of the both of them to run this country, but Donald Trump has actually exposed the worst underbelly that we haven't seen in America in a long time. Now, what does this show? That shows that young people do not like establishment politics. This shows that young people are looking into the facts. Well, some are looking into the facts and realizing something is very wrong and we need to fix it. Now, okay. So you have millennials for Donald Trump and you have millennials for Bernie Sanders, but there's more millennials for Bernie Sanders than there are Donald Trump. Okay, so let's talk about the establishment politicians. Hillary Clinton. No millennial on either side of the political field likes Hillary Clinton. Why? Because both sides agree she is a liar. Both sides agree she's a liar. But also, both sides agree that the rest of the establishment Republicans on the right are also liars because they flip-flop constantly. So does Hillary Clinton. Now, with the 2016 election, that's basically it. It started off with a lot of Republicans, and Republicans that tried to run for president in 2008, 2012 realized they had no chance, so they dropped out. So they saved themselves from embarrassment, which I applaud. However, though, you had Republicans like Jeb Bush, Mike Huckabee, Ben Carson. Now, those two dropped out, but Ben Carson's still in the race. He should really drop out, though, because he's irrelevant. Now, Rand Paul could have been a good libertarian on the Republican ticket, but here's the problem. He flip-flops back and forth. He went from saying pot arrests should be stopped and the war on drugs should be stopped because it's just stupid. You have more people from the African American community who are jailed more than whites because they have a little bit of pot on them. And I'm quoting Rand Paul directly. Bernie Sanders held that position for a long time, and so did Rand Paul. Both these guys hold that position, but Bernie Sanders has been constant on it. Rand Paul had a flip-flop to please the right-wingers. He had a flip-flop from saying pot arrests are stupid and the war on drugs should end to pot arrests are important and the war on drugs is not stupid, it actually protects Americans. He had a flip-flop to that ideology, which is wrong, which has no truth to it whatsoever. Now, Bernie Sanders, who's the only consistent candidate on a lot of his issues, now granted, gun control, he's a little iffy on that. He hasn't always been consistent, but he did vote to ban assault weapons, which is a big thing. And considering that he has a D- with the NRA is another big thing. Now, could he have voted on the gun control bill? Yes, he could have. He could have voted on it, but it would have caused more problems for people in rural areas in the United States. And I could kind of see why Bernie Sanders voted against it. Even though I wish he would have supported it, but the reason why he voted against it, and I'll tell you exactly why. If you live in an area like I do, you have cops who will be there immediately if you need them. But if you live in a rural area like Vermont or Kansas or Nevada or places where you live so far away from the police and you feel like you need to protect yourself in case of a burglary, you shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks in order to be cleared for a background check and an FBI investigation before you could get a handgun. You shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks, which is a very long time. And it takes a very long time for help to arrive at your house if you live in the middle of nowhere. So I can see why he voted against it, but I wish he would have voted for it, even though it would have made it more harder for people in rural areas, unfortunately. But for people saying Bernie Sanders voted against the bill, saying that people can't sue gun manufacturers. No, he voted in favor of that bill, but under certain circumstances. He said, and there's a video of him explaining this on the Senate floor back in early 2000s, that I think gun victim families have every right to sue gun manufacturers, but only if and only under this circumstance that the gun is illegally sold to someone without a background check or a license. If a gun owner sells someone a gun and then that person commits horrendous acts and that gun owner has no idea what this person is planning because they purchased the gun legally, they shouldn't be prosecuted, which I agree with. You shouldn't put a gun manufacturer in trouble if they legally sold a gun and genuinely had no idea what the person was going to do with it. I completely 100% agree with his stance on that, which is why I support Bernie Sanders, because he's smart. He has policies that work for both Republicans and Democrats and for overall the American people. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a complete video in support of Bernie Sanders. I'm just saying that the election is so crazy that Democrats are at each other's throats and Republicans at each other's throats. And guess what? At the end of the day, it's still a fair game. Donald Trump could be elected president. Marco Rubio could be elected president. Ben Carson could be elected president. Ted Cruz could be elected president. Hillary Clinton could be elected president. Bernie Sanders could be elected president. It's anyone's game at this point. That's the whole point of this election. It's anyone's game. It's anyone's game at this point. And whoever gets elected, should we support them? If they're crazy, no. But if they're reasonable, yes.